What's up, guys? It's Alex Javo, owner operator of World Film Championship. I have with me Cody Alexander Curtis, who is one of the most talented filmmakers and actors in the Southeast, and who I've ever met. And Cody's been a great, friend to me off screen. It's a pleasure to get to interview him as he interviewed me on his podcast, which you all should to listen to. He is an excellent filmmaker and actor. He submitted Broken Petals, which is a phenomenal short film, into our festival. And let's welcome Cody and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Well, first of all, that is quite the introduction you just gave me there. I sincerely appreciate it. Everything you said about me, I could probably say about you tenfold, especially with everything you've got going on right now. But Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. It's really cool to, on this side of me with having the festival and being able to, like you do with the podcast, get to know the artists that we're working with and that we collaborate with, and you're definitely at the top of my list of creatives. I just love talking to, on
Oh,
the regular basis. So
well, thank
my
you.
first question to you, man, is, as we've talked before, but for our audience sake, everyone turning in the World Film Championship, what got you in the industry, and what led you to Broken Petals?
Well, I guess I've never really ever been separated from the industry. For everybody who's listening, I have always been an actor and storyteller. I didn't get into film until 2018, but until that point, from the age of 5 until 2018, I was doing theater. I was doing a lot of theater. Even went out west to basically get a theater degree. Left the school before my degree was finished, but came back, and then I started doing school in Maine, at the University of Southern Maine with their media communications program, specifically film specific. And I actually attribute a lot to where I am right now to my good buddy Stephen Bennett, because I wasn't planning to really go back into acting or storytelling at any point soon. I needed to take a break because I was really burnt out. But he had this script called Daisy's on Fire. And he was like, he said this thing that still sticks to my mind to this day. A script without being put into production is just a dream, it's just an idea. And for me, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And then he looks at me and goes, I want you to produce it for me. And so we were in college together. And so we went from that, we got to our last day of shooting, a lot of fun. And then he looks at me and says, I've been thinking, I don't know if you're an actor, but I actually have this one little role that I just wrote a couple of days ago leading up to the shoot. I'd like you to play it. And so did that and then came back full circle. I mean, that's really all I can say is that basically from then on, I guess 2022 was really the focal point where I transitioned out of doing everything from filmmaking and acting to everything to going back to acting. But from 2018 to 2022, I was producing, I was a casting director, I was writing, I was directing. I was anything that you can do on a film set, I basically learned how to do. And for those of you who don't know what the state of Maine is like, the state of Maine is the kind of place where you really have to do everything in the industry. You can't really do just one thing because there is no industry to speak of, not in terms of like the main industry that everybody thinks of in Hollywood. Hollywood is not in the state of Maine. Most films that everybody knows Stephen King, though. And most of the films and stories that are Stephen King based are not shot in Maine. They're either shot in Canada or they're shot somewhere in the South because it does have a very Maine rural feel to it. But Maine still is a place where you have to, if you're going to be an actor, okay, that's great. You're also going to be a director, and you're going to be a screenwriter, and you're going to be a producer, and you're going to be a casting director, like anything and everything under the sun. And at a certain point, like there was this script that I had for gosh, a little while. it was called it wasn't called Broken Petals, but what Broken Petals turned into. I wrote a script in high school which originally was supposed to be meant for stage, but sort of put it and tabled it for a long, long time and didn't really bring it back until my creative partner, Zach Wheaton, and we were like, we know that we're both going to be leaving the state of Maine soon to pursue the bigger parts of the industry. Why don't we why don't we make something that we can be really proud of and put together and that can we can really just show how much we've learned and how far we've come as storytellers and filmmakers. And so I took this original script that I had and I reformatted it, uh, extended the length of it because originally it was like 10 pages maybe. And then it became the script that would be Broken Petals. And then from the end of July until we started production in September of 2022, that's how Broken Petals was born. And then we released it to the public at right before we both moved, and I moved in March of last year, March of 2023. And anybody who wants to see it, it's still up on YouTube. And the thing that baffles me is I think it's currently sitting at like 18,000 views or something like that. Like I That's something neither one of us was expecting, but here we
That's
are.
no surprise to me because it is just it's your performance not only as the lead of the movie but also the your directing and it really you can just tell that the script has so much heart in it, and when you have something that create that comes from somewhere personal as a writer, then you're there on the day and you're directing, the crew and stuff and the cast, and then but then you are, playing, one of the lead roles. I mean, you really feel that, see that. My next question for you is like, what is your approach to acting, and then your approach to directing? Because you're like another Mel Gibson situation, Braveheart over here, and so what's your approach to acting?
I I really appreciate that. I'll talk about directing first because I think that's the simplest thing. As you stated before, it's like I may be a director, but first and foremost, I will always be an actor, and I have so much profound respect for what all of us, what you, Alex, and what so many of us are trying to do here. So for me, I trust actors to know what their job is supposed to be on set. Like, I trust that they've done the work leading up to set. I mean, there's a reason because all of the projects that I have directed, I've also cast. So I trust that the actors, there's a reason why I cast them. And I trust that they'll be able to take, if they have any questions, of course, I'll answer them on the day. But I find that working with actors and trusting that they can do the work, their best work, most of the time it surprises me, and most of the time I don't need to micromanage wherever the script is going. For me as a director, I I have a big problem with directors who micromanage how actors are supposed to say things because for me that steals away the authenticity of what is supposed to be going on here. Because the one thing that every actor has, we're always told growing up and getting into this industry, you need to find what makes you special so you can have a long-lasting career. What I find has been the most unique thing is the personality and the voice of the individual actor who is coming to set, how they speak, what their physicality is, everything. Yes, there's going to be things that they do to prepare for being on set and for the role that they're playing. But if you're micromanaging every single thing that they do, you're essentially stripping away the performance that they could have potentially given. And I've never been like that. And as far as acting goes, I have had a very big journey with being an actor. How I used to do it is used to be always just memorize my lines and get myself into a place where I need to be. But where I am now, particularly this past year, the year of 2023 changed the way that I look at acting. And for me, it's not necessarily about having one particular technique or one particular way of doing things. It's more so about creating the most three-dimensional version of whatever character you are playing and knowing what your job is. And the biggest thing that changed my perspective is I read a book last year called The Body Keeps the Score. I'm not going to try to pronounce the author's name because I will butcher it. But it's something that for me, I think every creative person, and not just like people in the entertainment industry or people who are creatives, but every person in general needs to read because it talks a lot about how the things that we go through when we're younger, they're ultimately the things that shape us into the people we are today. What our beliefs are, what our perspectives are on things, how we think about things. And a lot of it is like quote unquote trauma as pointed to in the book. But the book also says that trauma doesn't necessarily need to be like this big life altering thing that happened to you when trauma ultimately can be someone stealing your peanut butter sandwich when you were at lunch in middle school. It's like it's those little things, or putting your hand on the stove when it was really, really hot and then whipping it back because you may have gotten burned. Like it's those kinds of things. And if we look at it from that perspective, where every character that has ever been put on this earth was a kid at one point or a teenager at one point. If we look at it like that, then we already have the baseline for creating really compelling three-dimensional characters. And that's sort of where I am now, and that's sort of where I'm going to be where I want to move forward with my own sort of acting process. And I want to grow in that as well.
Beautifully said, man. And it's, and it really um is interesting to see, what the how the cook is cooking these performances in these movies like you do. I mean, because you never really know people's approach, I mean, there's certain methods or techniques, and then you got people that do it their own way, and you got people that stay in character for months. You got people that just wing it, and there's like, so it's really interesting, and I've always been curious about your process because you do wear so many hats, and you just seem to just, to just ride each wave, whether it's directing, writing, producing, acting, just so beautifully. And so, thank you for sharing all of that to any actors and filmmakers listening. My next question would be, what's next for you? What's going on? What's on the horizon? And and yeah, what's next
It,
for you?
yeah, I think the big thing as of right now, I know, Alex, you've been along with me with this particular project since basically we started filming it. But in the month of December, my creative partner Zach Wheaton and I, we got together again and we filmed a little script called Suitcases, which is a script that I wrote 3 years ago. And the script went off without a hitch. Like everything that could go right with it went right with it. Like the first places we looked at for the film, we got. The weather looked like it was going to be pouring rain, and we got overcast for both days. And then our cast just came in and they came to work and they were excellent. And that film is in post-production right now, and it's with our sound people. We have somebody who's working on the score and somebody who's putting together our final audio mix. And when that is done, we're actually going to be working with some marketing people to figure out where the film is going to belong and then sending it out. But other than that, and I could talk about that film for hours, but for the sake of this podcast, I will say on the acting side of things, I had I had the chance to be on the set of a little feature film at the beginning of January called Ambrosio the First Vampire.
Oh,
That was
sounds interesting.
yeah, you know, I can't imagine, but I think the director's name is Alec Jocko or something like that.
Sounds
It's
there's a bunch out there.
But obviously, I'm kidding. Which, first of all, once again, I have said it to you in private. I will say it for the air so everybody knows you are a great director. Like you
Oh,
you know how to keep a good set, you know how to direct, you know how to work with actors, and that is a gigantic asset. And I think it's a testament to who you are as an actor and an artist and everything that you're trying to do.
oh,
But other than that, I recently got cast in a film that I'm not allowed to talk about right now because I am under NDA with it. But that is going to be shooting soon. But and then on the audition side of things, I just got a request to audition for a project in Los Angeles of all places. So if I get that and that goes through, I'll be in LA for about 3 weeks in April.
wow. Okay. Well,
So
hell,
that's the thing, and I'm looking to see what classes I want to take this year because I want to get I want to get back in the shed. Oh, and speaking of, you have mentioned a podcast at the beginning of this. That's the other thing. I'll just briefly talk about it. Alex was a guest on my podcast, which is called Artists and Emotions, and it is about the creative side of somebody, but also sort of the mental health journey that we as artists and creatives go on while we're in this field because undeniably it is a very tough industry that we're in, but we're doing the best we can, and a lot of times that means we work ourselves into the ground, and it can be challenging when it feels like things aren't going the way we want them to, even if it's moving like just a hair.
yeah.
But on that note, starting this week I'm actually going back into therapy, which for
Mm,
me is something that I'm a big advocate for, but I realize it's because there's so many things coming up. I need extra help.
right. Understandable, and with all the previous work you've done, and with the work that's coming, I mean, you gotta. We all have to take care of our mental health, number one, and my final thing would just be, let us know where we can find you, where we can watch your movies, where we can, look you up, and yeah.
O- Okay, so as far as we'll get Broken Petals out of the way because that was one of our first talking points. Broken Petals, just search Broken Petals short film on YouTube. You will be able to find it. As far as social media goes, you can find me on Instagram at underscore Cody underscore Curtis. I'm on there most of the time. I don't post a ton. I try not to be on social media as much, even though it's important for this industry where all of us are trying to go. But if there's any like acting updates, career updates, that's generally where I'll put it. And for anyone who's interested, I also have a separate Instagram account for the Artists and Emotions podcast, and it's just at the Artists and Emotions podcast. So those are all the places that you guys can see me. And I
Awesome.
just want to say thank you for having me, Alex.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you for your friendship outside of movies. It really means a lot to me. Being with like-minded artists that are so uplifting and talented, such as yourself. And man, I'm so looking forward to seeing you grow, as an actor, as a filmmaker. I'm one of your, cheerleaders, man. I'm one of your biggest fans, now. And so thank you so much again. And until next time.
Hey, everything you said about me, I can say right back at you. I'm also one of your biggest cheerleaders.
Oh, thank you. Well, all right, guys, that's it for Cody and myself for this, and see you on the next one.